Dragon Riders, Kaze no Kaeru, by Night Dragon Zero. Nala's perspective. Now! Night Slice ordered. At his command, Azure and Ashura let off their respective ice and solar beam techniques. Not at the enemy, but Night Slice instead. The energy of the beams wrapped around the Scyther's blades, and his eyes flashed purple. He was adding his confuse ray to the mix. Of course, all this happened in the blink of an eye. Desolation Claw! He roared, swinging his blades. A black burst of energy hit the ground, exploding into a dark wave. The party of rockets he'd fired at fell and stumbled about, screaming, rolling in pain or holding their heads in agony. Hurry! He yelled. We dashed past the stunned group and Riot smashed the door open. I stepped in first into a dark gray corridor, similar to those in pretty much every one of their bases and labs. Only thing now was the area was filled with screams, gunfire, explosions, Pokemon cries, and other various battlefield noises. Nala, which way would the labs be? Night Slice queried. I don't know, I haven't actually been here. You know a rocket base in general, right? Yeah, let me think. This is the west wing, so it should be this way! I pointed north. A pair of soldiers came running around the corridor. I didn't know whether they belonged to the Rockets or SFs, but I think nobody cared either way. Watch out! Azure lowered his cannons and sent them flying off with a burst of water. We've got to hurry, chaps! Riot yelled over the background noises. There was a roar as a huge Rhydon came charging towards us. Not good! Ashura cried, firing off some razor leaves, which failed to do anything more than annoy the huge beast. He's mine! Azure met the rock type head on, shoving back with all the weight of his massive Blastoise bulk. Better go on first, Ashura told us. We'll catch up! Don't worry, we'll be okay, Azure grunted in the midst of his struggle. Be careful, you two, Night Slice nodded, concerned. Here, this way, I waved, taking the lead as I dashed through the corridor. There wasn't much that got in our way to give Night Slice and Riot trouble. I stepped over a dazed Poliwhirl and indicated a point where the color of the corridor changed. I think this is it, I gasped, reading the sign above the entrance. It had the usual bit about authorized personnel only and such. Great work, Nala, Night Slice panted, exhausted from taking down so many enemy Pokemon. It was lucky this base's layout was so similar to the one I worked in, I replied. But, watch out! Riot suddenly rammed me from behind. I didn't have time to ask why, though. An explosion detonated the spot I'd been standing in moments ago. As I hit the ground, I saw Night Slice leaping over the lab's entrance. The explosion had also the effect of sending large amounts of debris down, sealing off the corridor, thus separating us from Night Slice. I looked up to see a ferocious-looking Gyarados towering over us. Riot attacked and was promptly smacked away by a swipe of its huge tail. Ow! What pretty stars! Riot, this is no time to— Yeah! I backed away as the huge beast approached. Excuse me, may I have this dance? Luminar appeared from behind the Gyarados, leaping gracefully upon its head. The Jolteon gave an evil grin as sparks flew from his body. Even the Gyarados looked panicked at the moment before Luminar shocked him into submission. We owe you, man, I sighed in relief. But weren't you supposed to be with the others? I was close by and it seemed like you needed help, the Jolteon barked. Hey, everyone! Azure and Ashura came running round the corner. They looked a bit bruised, but otherwise alright. Riot was shaking herself back to her senses. Did Night Slice make it in? Riot asked, pointing her snout to the blocked-off corridor leading to the labs. I think he did, but we've got to find another way in, I replied. Come on! Kyle's perspective. Damn, it's killing me just sitting here waiting for the end, I cursed, swimming round in circles. I just had to be a Lapras. There's no way for me to— Kyle? Hazuki, just rest, alright? You're not well. The others, she muttered, climbing to a standing position on my back. They'll need help. They told me to stay out and look after you, and that's what I'm gonna do. Well, I'm going in to help them, so if you want to look after me, you have to follow, she grinned. This is why I like you, Hazuki, I sighed. But how do you propose I get in? Well, they must have water in the base, right? She suggested. And the water has to come from somewhere. This river? Bingo, she winked. I glanced up ahead. The river seemed to run right into the bottom of the hill the base was located on, but perhaps there was an underground channel of some sort. All right, hang on tight, I told her. We're going in, and we're going full throttle. That ought to keep those fighters off our tail. Jade's perspective. Shit, this is getting us nowhere fast, I growled, slashing away at the pair of Tangela that attempted to block our path. Just keep at it, Firestorm roared, throwing his flames about wildly. We'll make it! Urges growled as he shocked a soldier that came running round the bend. Dracia had been going at such an accelerated pace that we lost track of Serac and her. Being smaller and faster, Luminar had run off to look for them while we'd been caught in the middle of the melee. It was literally a mass of rocket agents, some SFs, and more Pokemon. We clear? Firestorm panted, slamming the last Ampharos into a wall. So, you're here at last. A soldier stepped out, brandishing a large rifle. It's true then what they say about you being able to turn into a Charizard. Take cover! Firestorm ordered. There was a T-junction, and the three of us jumped round it as his rifle bullets decorated the wall with holes. Storm, this guy seems rather familiar, I muttered. I do not think we've met before, the soldier laughed. I piloted the helicopter back in Charizard's Valley. Name's Dylan, sub-commander of the SFs. Fuck you! Storm shouted. I take it you do remember. Well, I've got another surprise for you. Dylan pulled out a control and pushed a button on it. There were several loud metallic footsteps as a huge machine stepped into view. It was a silver humanoid robot with two glowing red eyes. I'll be back, its mechanical voice spoke. You're kidding, right? Urges moaned. Where'd he get copyrights to that? I wondered. Crap, where's a chaff grenade when you need one? Firestorm muttered. There was a metallic hiss as a section of his chest opened, revealing a huge Gatling gun. Oh crap! Everyone yelled as we dove for cover. Riot's perspective. Phew, I think we'll be safe here for a while, I panted, slamming my back against the closed door. Yeah, it didn't help that you ran us round the same corridor 3 times, Luminar added in. Well, how was I supposed to know it was a circular one? Nala protested. We'd made it to an empty room, which was just a straight corridor with a door at the end. What surprised me was the long series of glass windows along the entire stretch on one side of the wall. Out of curiosity, I hopped over and peered at it. Look at this! I called. It's the lab, all right, Ashra muttered. The others joined me in looking down the huge but empty laboratory. Actually, devoid of life might have been a better term, considering the dead human bodies that were lying around. It was filled with all sorts of strange machines and computers. A huge generator was located further behind. However, what caught our interest were large containers with the biological hazard symbol on them. Those things missiles or something? Azure wondered. Oh my god! Nala exclaimed, getting stares from everyone. The virus must be in those missiles! But if they start firing those things around, then it'll... Well, let's hurry! Luminar growled. Everyone dashed towards the other door. I was about to go too when I caught sight of something. Nala! Look down there! What is it? My partner jogged to my side. There was one moving thing in the lab below. We just hadn't seen him because he was as silver as the machines around. A Skarmory? I wondered. Could it be that Skarmory? Nala whispered, clutching the fox-shaped pendant around her neck. He was flying around the lab, pushing buttons with his beak and checking the computers. He looked almost like a lab technician doing that. A light flashed, and behind him he turned around to collect a small cylinder about the size of a human hand. The steel bird grabbed it in his mouth and stuffed it beneath his wing. He went back to his computer, but came up with an utterly startled expression on his face as he looked at the screen. He began furiously jabbing the buttons with the edges of his wings and shook his head. His mouth moved, but it was impossible to hear what he was saying. Finally, he flew towards a pair of double doors that served as the main entrance. Let's hurry! Nala raised her foot and kicked the glass window to pieces. I just have to know! Nodding, I spread my wings and allowed her to climb onto my back. Night Slice's perspective. Damn it! I cursed, staring at the sealed-off passageway. There was no way back, nor any way to get help from my allies. Only thing to do was go forward. However, I got the sinking feeling that something wasn't right. The only corridor led straight and curved to the right. As I stepped around the bend, I came face to face with a figure I'd longed to see, yet dreaded to see. Nice to see you again, Night Slice. Or perhaps I should be calling you brother. Chris! I staggered, seeing through the seemingly normal Scyther in front of me. Still, I felt a great difference in her voice, something I couldn't really identify. Lots has changed, hasn't it? Chris! I looked up and noticed the closed double doors behind her. It read, Main Laboratory. Yes, that's the lab you were looking for, Chris indicated with her head. Came about the virus? The virus, I muttered. The one Silph designed to affect both their chimeras and the Pokemon with them, she continued. And now the SFs have gotten hold of it. It's been engineered to become airborne, and they plan to launch off a bunch of canisters containing the virus. Think of it as a nuke without the explosion, but the side effects. But that's gonna kill hundreds of Pokemon, I gasped. This is why we've set something up to counter that. We've done some tweaking with the computer system so that the generator here will blow up before the canisters can be launched. The explosion would generate a degree of radiation lethal to the viral components. I need to get in the lab. I need an antidote, I growled. I do know this place has the technology to synthesize one, but that would involve the computers, all of which are currently occupied with the self-destruct program. A friend of mine's infected, and I need that vaccine to cure her. The blue-haired girl? Chris snarled. The one I saw you with? I nodded silently, not wanting to know how Chris knew. You'll mess up the computer systems if you try to synthesize the antidotes, and that'll lead to the release of the virus, she sternly replied. What are you getting at? I demanded, growing impatient. I'm sorry about your friend, but it's still one life versus hundreds. I'd say it's a worthy sacrifice. Those words were like an icy cold dagger through my heart. Allegard. What's Allegard done to you? He had nothing to do with what I did to myself. You don't know what I've been through, she screamed furiously. I wasn't enjoying myself like you were. Perhaps it was the combination of all the emotions, fury and anger that had been building up within my heart. Perhaps the stress just caused me to lose control, but it didn't help what I roared out next. Chris, get out of my way now, or I'll force you to! You'll have to make me, Chris replied, stepping into fighting stance. Only as I mirrored her stance, I truly realized what I just initiated.